can
watch your step.
here. We can get to talk and stuff. So just to let you know, I'm videotaping this, and it's going to go out on my website and also on the farm site too. And I have a portable mic, so it's not just me talking. It's you guys get to ask questions, and if you don't feel like being videotaped, you can let Doug know that. But you'll look pretty good. I think you should.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. This is my coach. My name. Do you want to start? Okay, so my name's Alan Graf, and I've been a resident of the farm on and off. I came here in 1972 and lived here till 1984. I left, did a whole bunch of things. One of the things I did while I was gone from the community is go to law school, so I'm a lawyer. And I call myself a hippie lawyer. Although my hair's growing back, I cut it off for various reasons lately. But I came back to the farm. I married somebody here who lives on the farm. I've been living here the last 2.5 years. And while I was gone in Portland, I was working as a civil rights lawyer and working against police brutality against protesters. I represented environmentalists, tree sitters, homeless people, political activists, and I fought the beast for a really long time. And after doing that for a long time, I recame to the conclusion once again that if you're going to make fundamental differences in society, well, fighting the authorities and fighting the beast are important, but if you're going to actually make long-term sustainable changes, you have to actually walk the talk. And what I thought was, the best thing for me to do is go back to the community I started in the farm. So I moved back here, and of course I was drawn by my lovely wife who was living here already. And I came back here to help the community along with its original vision, which was to be a sustainable model flagship for sustainable living. And that's the reason I came back here. And I've been doing that sort of stuff here, and the community started as a flagship of how to do it. I think we've actually honestly ended up as a flagship of what to do and what not to do. And so we've made mistakes over the years, and still learning, and it's still an experiment and process. And so anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing over here. We're starting obviously with, we have a solar voltaic array behind me, and it's a 4.3 kilowatt array. That means that when it's operating at its peak efficiency, it's going to put out 4,300 watts of electric power. And I have a little station here that people can come up and free of charge plug their golf carts in to charge up. I haven't had too many takers on that though. I'm sort of disappointed, but I think as the price of electricity goes up, we'll probably see more people lining up, and maybe the line will start extending down the road here. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I also have Eleanor and I put together this garden, which is sort of a garden that was designed after a garden in Oregon. A library in Oregon put this together, and we really liked the design. We put it in. It has kind of trickle spray irrigation, and it's all in beds. And one of the nice things about it, for me, actually, I was never a gardener. Actually, when I first worked here, I was on the farming crew, and I drove big tractors. And I was never actually into gardening. I thought that was kind of a wussy thing to do, being a macho tractor driver. But now when I'm older, my attitudes have kind of gone by the wayside. Actually, I really like gardening, and the fact that my garden is located right next to my office, which is right down there, makes it to where I can be working on something legal and then go, God, this is boring. I want to do something real, and get up, and within 30 seconds, I'm in my garden. So that's kind of a permaculture sort of theory, is you keep everything, your food growing and your work and everything you're doing really close together, so you don't have to be spending a whole lot of time or energy or burning energy to get to it. So that's good. And you're going to be seeing what Peter Hoyt, who is a former resident of the farm, designed. It's an earth shelter. That's the office. And the earth shelter is a really simple design. It's basically concrete blocks sunk into the earth, and on the south-facing side, it's all windows. And basically what it does is it keeps the temperature of the earth. And so during the winter, the earth is probably around 50 degrees, so it gets down to 0. You can leave the office and it'll be, let's say, 68, and you'll come back in the morning with no heat on, it'll be 63. So it'll have dropped only 5 degrees with no heat whatsoever. And during the summer, it stays fairly cool, and again, not using much air conditioning. I always try to make Doug feel bad. He's got a high air conditioning bill. And I go, well, what's your air conditioning bill this month, Doug? And and we're actually working on different ways of doing stuff. I'm actually thinking about now, the next project I'm thinking about is putting in a pond that's going to be next to the office that will be a place where I can catch all the water off of the roof and then put the water and then pump the pond's water into the garden. So that's kind of what's happening. Let's go take a look at the office. And by the way, does anybody have any questions? Come on. All right. Let's give that person a mic. Yeah, and just kind of speak like that. It's on, yeah.
Are they tracking panels, or do they face that direction all the time?
They face that direction all the time, although I change the inclination of the arrays about every 2 or 3 months. I just change them right around the equinox, and as the sun gets higher and higher, I'll change them.
And do they change mechanically, or do you manually lift them?
I manually change them. It's not too hard. It's pretty easy. They're just, you see those little slots there? You just pull out a bolt and get somebody to move it. And actually, I did it by myself, and it's easy to do. I thought about having a tracking system. I decided against it. Yeah. Any other questions?
What was the cost?
Well, the cost is, when I talk about cost, I like send you to the person who actually designed it for me, because different arrays cost differently. But I'll tell you that I was able to, if I would have paid for the full cost of it, as is, I couldn't have afforded it. But right now there's a federal tax credit that's out there that you get a 30% tax credit back on the cost of it. That comes off your income, 30% credit. And the state of Tennessee now has a program where you get a 40%, it's a 40% grant. And so in actuality, I only paid 30% of the actual cost of it. And so that's, it's, you know, without those two, at the current energy prices, it would have probably taken about 30 years to recoup what I put into it. Now it's going to take about 8. So that's pretty good. And so I think, you know, with Obama as now our president, yes, I think he's going in the right direction. And I'm hoping to see a lot more incentives and grants and all sorts of things like that that will encourage people to start using solar. Besides the cost and the savings that, I mean, right now one good thing about this thing is Meriwether Lewis, which is a cooperative which actually supplies the electricity. If I produce more energy than I use, they send me a check. And so I can be making money. I'm called a generation partner. And in fact, this month, I think they're going to owe me money. Like, I'm going to be sending them bills and asking them why they're not paying on time. So, yeah.
Have you guys, would it be possible to harness power through, like, hydroelectric power through the Swan Lake Trust?
Yeah, I think that's all the sorts of stuff we have to be looking at. You know, where are we going to harness power? And again, I think President Obama came in with a lot of good ideas. I hope he sticks to his agenda. We have to be looking at that, considering the huge mess that dinosaur blood has got us in, from the wars in the Mideast to global warming. I mean, it's a disaster across the board. And of course, we've become addicted to it. We drive cars. You know, we're used to it. We're used to it. It's hard to get people off what they start feeling like is an entitlement. And our entire culture is like that. I think the farm has become like that too, you know, where we drive a lot of cars around here, although you'll start seeing a lot of, we've gotten into golf carts, which I think is really good. There's probably about maybe 20, 30 golf carts on the farm right now, which is great. So, and you're going to see more of that as the oil, you know, Albert Bates, who runs the Eco Village Training Center, has wrote a book here on peak oil, and I really believe that we have peaked and we're going to start seeing a decline in oil. So this is the kind of stuff we need to start, you know, doing. Let's get him a mic and put it right up to you there.
Was there any cost in tying?
What's that?
Like it's not on.
It's not on? Let me look at it here. Okay. One, two, three, four. Yeah. Okay.
Was there any cost in tying into the Merriweather-Lewis system grid in order to be able to sell them your power back?
Not anything extra other than the cost of putting in the unit together. And interestingly enough, the people who actually put in the unit were old farm folks who used to live here. A fellow named Steve Johnson, and I'll do a free ad for him, runs Lightwave Solar Electric. I followed some distinguished people that he had worked on, Al Gore and Sheryl Crow, who I like both of them actually. So it's really starting to come on. His business, okay, we're basically going into a depression. I'm sorry to use that word, at least economic. I'm not going to try to be, you know, mentally depressed about it. But, you know, a lot of businesses, you hear people laying people off. Steve Johnson's is looking for more people. His business is booming. Just keep that in mind as you start thinking, what am I going to do in the coming economic hard times? All the stuff that's good for the earth is going to sell, actually. That's very cool. In fact, the economic depression is probably going to force us into doing things better, smarter, more sufficient, and more sustaining. And that's what the farm, you know, is what we're trying to do here as well. Any other questions? We want to do a little walking? Okay, let's take a walk. Give Vicki the mic. Thank you. So I don't claim to be a master gardener by any means. Doug and Deb are the master gardeners. I don't know if he showed you.
Yeah, we did a little.
All right. They actually came over the other night to ask me about my hoops. I was like, oh my God, the guru is asking me about how to garden. I was like, I'm not worthy. So this is our garden, and we probably can feed about 3 or 4 families out of this garden. It's all raised beds. Another great gardener, by the way, is Vicki, who is modest about her garden, but does. When we first started actually thinking about doing a garden, we looked at Vicki's garden and Doug's. So there are people here, and it's interesting, we used to grow more communally. We had used a lot of the land for growing food, and now it's turned into more individual gardens. And one of the things that you can't grow in gardens is field crops like corn, wheat, soybeans, and we still buy all of that stuff. And you know, it's as we evolve or change, we may have to get into that. We do have a lot of land here, and we're not really using it for full-scale farming. Although you've seen there's a whole plot out there that Doug's actually plowed up. That's going to be a community garden. So that's kind of nice. We're getting back into using our big fields for community-type stuff. This is all has. Yeah, we can walk right up to it, and. We'll just kind of just open the door and not go in, but it's fed by these little misters that put out. It's kind of like drip irrigation, but not quite. It actually blows like a little mist over the plants, and they get it. It's kind of like actually getting rainfall. It's really gentle, and it's a really great way of growing things. You can see a lot of the beds are still kind of weedy, but we're actually planted some broccoli, and we've got spinach and lettuce, which we have to thin out, but we're getting, last year was the first year we put this garden together, and we were just overwhelmed with the amount of food that it was producing. One of the things we're going to do is, we've got, on this roof right here, we have two roofs where rain falls off of it, and right now it's just going into the ground. We want to catch all that water and use it for irrigation, you know, possibly even bath water. And you can use, with the right filtration system, you can use rain catchment for drinking as well. So if it dries up around here, you can even, you know, not even have to worry. That's another thing that I like is, you know, we chlorinate our water, and I understand the reason for that, but I don't particularly like using chlorinated water either for watering. We have a chlorine filter on our hose right now, which waters the garden. So anyway, let's go around to the front of the office building and check it out here. Just follow me. Oh yeah, well, you're out in the woods, and AT&T don't provide DSL, so this is you gotta get internets one way or another. So this is it. So we got one dish for TV and one for internet. And in fact, we're going to be putting up something today to give a service to our neighbor down there, one of our elders who needs some internet. We're going to be hooking that up. Why don't you all come around here and show you a little bit on how these meters work. Kind of looks like a spaceship. I have this is a converter, and at any point it'll tell you how much it's putting out. It says, since I've put this in, I've saved 1,738 pounds of carbon that would have gone into the atmosphere if I'd been just using. Most of the electricity around here is generated by coal burning plants, some dams, but a lot by coal. So by using this, almost 2 tons of carbon has not gone into the atmosphere. Now it tells you also, I'll tell you in a second here, producing 1,520 watts right now, which is on a kind of a cloudy day. And so far, 3.98 kilowatts have been generated today. This meter is the meter that tells me how much I'm actually using. When the meter guys come by here, they read this, and this meter will go backwards. So I could be using, but you're generating more, and this thing will be going backwards. It's really fun to watch your electric meter go backwards. And this is the one that tells you how much my solar arrays actually produce, and it says 1,022 kilowatts. That's in the last 2 months. It's only been up for about 2.5 months. And I run an electric golf cart off of it, and this is my preferred mode of transportation, right here. So let's go into the office. Shall all come in? Come on over, kind of settle here. We'll look around a little bit. Yeah, it's a fun place to work. Hard to get me out of here. I'll take you to that side in a minute. I'll show you what's going on here. Let's get everybody in. Yeah.
You have a daughter named Odessa?
I have a granddaughter named Odessa. I have 4 grandkids here now. You can see why I'm smiling a lot.
One of the redheads that we passed.
Yeah. Come on in, come on in. Let's get some more folks in. Let's get everybody in. We got everybody or no? Still coming?
Yep, we're here.
What's that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, this is an earth shelter, and it's concrete. It's cinder block filled with concrete. These are Tennessee River rocks, and when the sun comes in the morning, they start heating up the rocks, and it hits its mass, and the mass holds heat. So most, like early spring mornings, it might be a little bit cool in here, maybe about 65, but within about a few hours it heats up 3 or 4 degrees, and it'll stay that way for a long time. So we don't have to run any heat. When it gets really cold, I have a wood stove, and I do have a heat pump, you know, for more emergencies, but I don't really run that very much. I want to show you some of the stuff I'm doing. This is a videotape running now of a class that I've taught at the farm school. I taught us a class last year called Radical Civics, and I taught the kids at the school about, you know, the view of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, government from a radical perspective, not from your normal perspective. You can see the entire class is up on YouTube. I videotaped every class, and if you go to my website, hippielawyer.com, you can actually take the course. I have every class up there, and I have all the final examination. You can test yourself and see whether you pass or not before you even take the course. Maybe you don't need to take the course. So I'm doing that. I've also been doing radio for years and years, and I have, although I haven't done radio in the past 3 months, I've just taken a break from it, but I've been doing it for about 10 years. Back in Portland, Oregon, I hosted a talk radio show called Voices from the Edge with a woman named Joanne Bowman, and I came here and started doing my own radio, and I've got a lot of backlog radio, again, through my website. I've interviewed a lot of people like Greg Palast and Howard Zen. I've interviewed him a number of times. Helen Thomas used to be part of the White House correspondence. Jim Hightower. Just a bunch of really cool people who I've got to interview, and all those interviews are on my shows. And also, you can tell I'm a musician, too. That's what I really like to do, but it doesn't pay any bills. So I do that occasionally. I play, you know, on the farm and have a band, and actually play in a bluegrass band with Doug. So I stay pretty busy. I have 4 grandchildren here, which keeps me even busier. 2 of them, my daughter just moved here. My daughter, who I adopted in Guatemala back in 1980 with my ex-wife Jane when we were on a Plenty project. She came here. She was, when we first found Maria, she was left in a cardboard box in front of a hospital, severely malnourished. And our group, the Plenty group, got her, and first few weeks we were feeding her 24 hours with an eyedropper. She couldn't even drink out of a bottle. And now she's just an amazing woman. She's a CNA. She's going to get a nursing degree. She's raising 2 kids, and now just moved down here. So it's great to have her here. And she's kind of like, you know, one of our projects come to fruition, but I wouldn't. She'd say, "Dad, I'm not a project." So I, you know, try to stay busy, and what I always like Archimedes, I'm always looking for the right lever to move the planet, you know, make it more sustainable, less human suffering. That's kind of the vow a lot of us took when we first started the farm, is to try to alleviate suffering, make things better for the rest of humanity. Any questions or discussion at all, or?
About your passive
Oh,
life.
Vicki, you want to say something?
I was going to ask you, do you still teach guitar lessons?
I do. I actually have a class now. It's kind of funny. Well, it's just one person. It's an independent study. And the class is public speaking / lead guitar. And we've actually gone into the similarities between playing lead guitar and public speaking. And I was doing this the other day with Zach Thomas, who's my student, who will be doing a presentation at the end of the year of public speaking on the moral dilemma of Israel.
And lead guitar tonight.
And lead guitar tonight, yeah. And the first thing we did was, the first lesson was, Zach, what's the similarity between public speaking and lead guitar? He goes, I don't know what. He goes, you have pauses and space are as important as what you say or play. He goes, oh, cool. And first he was playing diddle 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 diddle. I go, no. You go diddle 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 diddle. I said, did you notice the second diddle was more powerful than just diddle diddle? He goes, yeah. I said, well, that's true with public speaking too. The same thing. And then of course we watched Barack Obama was one of the great, speakers of our time, and checking out, and we watched Jon Stewart, and both I considered, Einsteins of their art, and like Jon Stewart kept us collectively out of depression for the last 8 years. So, yes, somebody else want to say something, or
who did the
let me get your mic here.
I was wondering who did the mural.
Hey. Yeah.
Who painted the mural?
Oh, okay. The mural is painted by Bernice Davidson, and who's been an artist here. She's done the first cover of Spiritual Midwifery. She's an incredible artist. She has an artwork on the Trail of Tears in the square of Lawrenceburg right now. And I really wanted a mural, and the mural is very different than what I imagined it would be. And you see those ghost caravan buses up there? I thought that was kind of cool. And people say, what is it? I say, well, it's kind of like what the farm could be like if we really got it together. or hippie heaven. There's another one. Somebody said. But and I like, one of my Margaret Mead's quote there is one of my favorites, because it always reminds you that the society and civilization are always telling you you're powerless as an individual. You can't do anything. You can't get anything done. You got to have a lot of money. You got to be a big corporation. Wrong, wrong, wrong. We can do stuff. We do have the power. Each one of us has the power in us, and together we have incredible power to make changes. Sometimes it sounds a little flower childy, but I live on that. I think about that when I wake up in the morning, and that's what gets me going. Yeah. Anybody else?
Were you an original member of the farm band?
No, they never wanted me. Oh, actually, I'll tell you a funny story about that. When I came here, I saw the band, and actually, the farm had been here about a year and a half. I saw the band. I thought, damn, they need me as a lead guitar player. So Stephen Gaskin, have you heard, was our spiritual leader and teacher, and now he's just a regular old citizen here like the rest of us. We went through various changes. Doug and Vicki probably told you about. But at the time, I thought, well, he's the head guy. I might as well go see him. He seems to be running the show. So Stephen, hey, I think you need me as a lead guitar player. And and for the way I came on, he said to me, you're way out into desire, man. You need to sell your guitar and drive a tractor. So I had this beautiful guitar, and I was basically, and I look back at it, although it sounds sort of a little extreme, it actually was quite good, and I actually thank him for that. I ended up selling my guitar, and which I was totally invested in as a guitar player. That was like, I'm a guitar player, that's what I do, and blah, 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 and I really can't do anything else. And I found out actually I could do something like grow food, take care of myself, do something other than play music. And so it was actually pretty cool. And later on I got into other bands. I never actually ended up in the farm band, but I was in a farm band, and now I'm in a few farm bands. So the long answer to your short question. Anybody else?
You used to teach music lessons to some of the local guys too, didn't you?
Right. I taught music lessons to local folks, and that was a lot of fun. I taught music to a guy named Matt Roy, who's now, one of the things about teaching music, it's probably why I don't do it much anymore, is that everybody I taught got better than me. I was like, okay, this is getting old. No, I'm just kidding. I actually like that. I like seeing my students get really good. And actually, that's kind of the fun thing about, you hear about passing the Dharma, and the Dharma is whatever it is, whether it's music or dance or art or consciousness, the way of looking at the universe, the way of looking at things around you, that kind of stuff, it's not dogma. It's not like, hey, you got to learn the Bible or respect the Bible. You got to learn this religious book, but just a way of doing things. You know, I've always thought, and I've had 2 kids, if you can pass on that to your kids, if you can pass on in a subtle way, not, you know, you got to be this, you got to do that. And I tried not to be a doctrinaire with my kids, raising them, but if you can just pick up an attitude, critical thinking. Ralph Nader is, you know, one of my heroes in terms of critical thinking, like looking at stuff and saying, what about this? And not, you know, just throwing away any assumptions or what people tell you, even people you respect. You know, a lot of times it's really easy to like, well, who should I vote for? Or what do you think? Oh, if they think that, then it must be right. Bad. And, you know, in a way, I remember that we actually had that issue with, you know, we had a charismatic leader for a while. A lot of us got lazy about not thinking for ourselves. And in fact, the farm is better for it, and we decided, hey, we all think we don't need somebody to tell us how to think, and we've grown as a culture and small village in that way. Long answer, short question. We can go out on, let me show you, you can quickly glance around here and see where I do all my broadcasting. You can kind of look in. I have a whole little studio here, and I do a radio show out of here, and that's, then we can kind of go out on the deck, and then you'll be on to your next great activity. So Hippielawyer.com is my website, and you can check that out. I'm actually going to be doing some changes on it, and this video might show up on it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Does it keep moisture from forming in here?
No. No, it's actually pretty, I don't have any problems with moisture at all.
Wow.
Yeah. People worried about that when we first built the place. And people going, oh, you're going to get a lot of mold, blah, blah, blah. I got all the naysayers. It's been fine. I've had no problems.
You see buildings like this more in the desert.
Yeah.
I can't think of another one here in the south.
We insulated the bejesus out of this place. We put a lot of like waterproofing on it, and so come on out here.
It's like a cliff.
Yeah. So this is a great time right around now. Everything starts blooming, going crazy. And we have a gazebo, what's a pergola, that's what it's called. This is a pergola, and you can see we're having vines starting to grow up on it. We're hoping it'll be just totally covered in green matter. And during the summer, it'll just be a really cool place to play, and it will just prevent a lot of heat from coming in. I'm looking at putting a solar hot water heater on that roof. It'll heat the water, which I heat now electrically, and also will act as something to insulate the building from getting more heat as well. And we're thinking about, I actually talked to my son-in-law yesterday. He was suggesting I put a pond right out here as a catchment basin. And so I'm thinking about doing that. I thought about either putting a tank or a pond. I'm not sure. I'm kind of going back and forth about which one I want to do, but it's another project that's happening. But I was hoping when we built this that it could look good enough to be on the cover of House and Garden. And, you know, so it could encourage people, not just like, oh, that's some hippies, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wrong with being a hippie, of course. I'm proud to be a hippie. But, you know, something that would be attractive to middle-class America. Because if we're going to make big fundamental changes, we have to do stuff that's going to be sexy and attractive enough to mainstream America, you know, for it to happen. And anyway, any other questions? Yeah. Oh, here you go.
Why no wind power out here?
Wind power. I don't do much with wind power. Doug, are you doing something with wind power?
Well, you know, we don't have the high velocity, steady wind that you typically find. We're not an ideal wind area.
short answer to that one. They're coming up in more recent times with new wind generators that require less power or less wind velocity. And this is off again.
Oh, I wonder what's going on. Weird.
And the same with water power. Somebody was asking about hydro. The one disadvantage we have for hydropower is you have to have a lot of drop, so that that's where the power comes from with water, is how much drop you have from the collection point to the generation point. All of our water is about another quarter mile down that way, so it's a long distance from all of our residences. And then it's a fairly gradual slope to get sufficient drop for real power generation.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things are really good questions that, we're going to deal more and more with as a community. You had a question?
You had mentioned the builder of this one. What was his name again?
Peter Hoyt, and the school that was, he built that as well. Oh. You can almost see his imprimatur as an architect. What else did he build besides the school or design?
The meeting hall, which we're going to next.
Oh, the meeting hall, yeah, okay.
I saw a home similar in a construction through Summertown on the way here.
Yeah.
Is that any relation?
The one on Drake's
Oh,
Lane.
yeah.
House,
Yeah, Dorothy's house. That was his as well. He designed that. So the last thing I wanted to say to you all is, for some of you who want to do stuff elsewhere, I hope this being here inspires you. And for those of you who are actually interested in this community, I really encourage you to come and check it out again and again. The community really needs more people. It needs, in my opinion, of course, there's differing opinions here. It needs more idealistic people. It needs young and old. And it's a great place to do stuff that's sustainable and innovative. And, sometimes we fight it out here. It's part of community living is having to deal with a huge, big, opinionated family. But it's for those of us who stay, we've decided it's worth it. Sometimes I don't think it is, but most of the time I do. And so it's, again, experiment. Can we all get along? That's the question. Can we all get along, or are we going to shoot each other and kill each other? No. Are we going to get along and argue and still respect and love each other? That's what it's all about. So thank you for coming today. I appreciate it.